So welcome to the first week of this series of How Does Faith Inform Your Motherhood? And I want to start out by talking about an actual perspective shift. That one shift I've had to make along the way, and I have found super helpful in persevering along this journey as a mother, is to view it as an opportunity to serve rather than a journey of martyrdom. And I want to define those two terms. So, what does it mean to be a servant? It means that you are doing something purposeful, you have a job or a mission. It means that you are doing something without expectation of constant reward or acknowledgement or praise, but because you know it's something you're called to do. What is a martyr? What's the difference? Okay, so a martyr is someone who may be killed for their belief, right? But in many ways, a martyr is someone who, if you're living as a martyr, it's someone who is exaggerating suffering or living under this constant self-pity. And there was a season of motherhood, in fact, it comes up quite often on a weekly basis, where I have to ask myself, am I being a martyr today or am I being a servant? Listen, there are times when it is just downright difficult, right, to persevere. And it's easy to just get discouraged. When do I fall into a path of martyrdom? When do I begin to just have that cycle of self-pity? It's when I start looking at other people. It seems like they're out having so much leisure time, so much free time. Maybe they can pursue an interest that I just can't pursue in this season as a mom. And that's when I start to sink into this mentality of martyr. When I am reminded of who Jesus is and why he came, this is how my faith informs my motherhood. In Mark chapter 10, verses 44, it says that the Son of Man came, who's referring to Jesus, not to be served, but to serve. And when you look at his life, he was constantly had followers who were constantly asking questions, who would not leave him alone, who had constant needs, who never got it the first time. Have you noticed that? Like the disciples who followed with him and followed him in his teaching, they never quite grasped what he was saying the first time. He had to be repetitive. And as a mom, that is what we're doing constantly, isn't it? Being repetitive, saying the same things over and over for instruction, for reassurance, for anything we do, for making dinners and lunches. It's the same thing, that repetition. And so my faith has informed my way forward as a mom, because I remember that the one who I worship came not to be served, but to serve. And so this changes my view of children, right? That children then are a gift, that they are part of that service, and that service becomes worship rather than martyrdom. Does that make sense? So if I could encourage you in two ways, I think that there are real life martyrs, right? We can look at the life of Stephen, who was stoned to death for his belief in Christ. There will be suffering that you will undertake as a Christ follower, even if it's just criticism or slander. There will be suffering that you will live through in this life because of a fallen world that's broken. And so there will be real suffering even as a mom. And that is to be expected. But I think that when we turn our children into that object of worship, and we expect from them what only God can fill in our lives, that leads us down that path of martyrdom rather than the joy of servanthood. So I hope you're encouraged today to hear this truth wash over you. Take this challenge for this month and be mindful. What's my perspective this week as I go about mothering my children? Can I look at it as an opportunity of service, following the model of my maker? Or am I looking at it as a path towards martyrdom? And I think as we accept that challenge, if you'll join me in accepting that, listen, it's a day-to-day thing for me. It really is. And sometimes it's multiple times a day where we stop and we say, no, I'm not giving in to this self-pity. I'm not the only one who's struggling with toilet paper strewn about, or wiping another bottom, or making another dinner, or cleaning up another thing, right? But I want to invite you to explore the joys of motherhood by choosing to see it as an opportunity to serve. And as you do, I know that you'll be encouraged. I'm going to read this verse over you, Proverbs 11:25. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and the one who waters will himself be watered. So friends, as you water those around you this month and ongoing, I pray that you too will feel the water of replenishment and sustenance and just love that comes from a Father that made you and modeled what it was like to be a servant.